Hello, I'm Tash and welcome back to another speed build. This is the second build on my channel and a much smaller one, although I did have to edit it down a lot to be just one video because of, you know, who I am as a person. It was actually built as a part of the World Collab save file that I'm on with Hufflepom from Twitter, and many other people and creators are joining in on that as well. And it ends up actually being in Willow Creek on the Hallow Slough, is that how you say it? Lot. And it has the Convivial, Peace and Quiet, and Fast Internet. I was going to say Party Place, but I think I changed it from that. It's worth 112,943 simoleons because I cannot control myself. And it has one bedroom, one bathroom, and is placed on a 30 by 20 lot. So that's all the fun stats there for you out of the way. You can see up in the upper left-hand corner there that I have an image that I used, which was my inspiration because I wanted to do something a bit more modern, a bit different than what we did in the last build. So you can see there, and that'll disappear later on in the video, but just for now you can sort of see where my inspiration was coming from and what I was thinking with it. And I think it turned out pretty well. I'm happy with most aspects of this build. Here I'm just trying to work out what windows and doors are going to work. I find it much easier to find windows and doors that work with a modern build because they tend to be far more simple and contemporary. But I had massive issues later on in the project trying to match. I really wanted to use this big sliding doors from Eco Lifestyle, and just they don't match anything, and it's infuriating. This is a very small build, especially compared to the last one I did, and I imagine it's for a sim who is a corporate or a business sim, or someone who's single, or perhaps a couple who likes to entertain and party. They don't have a dining table in this build, just bench seating at the kitchen bench, but it is large and there's a table outside and plenty of gathering spots on the exterior as well, which I thought was fine, and that made up for the lack of dining space on the inside. I mean, I could have made a smaller kitchen and squeezed it in, but I liked how it looked. I also really liked what I did here with putting up a half wall as a barrier to the front entranceway, but then using some windows as you come up the stairs so you can still see outside. I think it looks really nice. And here I'm using the same fence that I used. I can't remember the name of it. It's not the window shopper fence, but it's the other one. It's a base game one, and I use it as sort of like a pergola kind of thing there. And it took me a little bit to figure out. I knew basically what siding I wanted. The wooding side stays, but trying to figure out the right colours for the front of the build and also for the chimney on the side. It took me a little bit to figure out how I wanted those colours to look. I also stupidly totally forgot that you could use half walls around the platforms, which I've used at the top of the build. So I was trying to match that with the paint, which I could have done easily if I had have used half walls of the right size, and I could have just had the same going up, but I didn't because I forgot and I'm an idiot. But I still think it looks nice. It took me a little bit to figure out. I've cut out a lot of footage of me trying to make decisions in this build because that's what 90% of it was, which is the only way I could fit it into one video. Otherwise, I feel like it probably would have been annoying to watch anyway, but you know, it's fine. We're fine. I tried to keep it with the sort of similar colours to whatever the corresponding facade was, so the roof for the white part is white and the roof for the wooden part is a more brown colour. But I think it looks nice. I like how it looks. It kind of has a rustic but also kind of modern feel to it. It turned out really well in the end. Stairs were a big problem. All of the modern like the banisters, is that what they're called? The railings that you use for stairs, none of them felt right. I actually ended up using the one from Snowy Escape, and I think that was a nice balance between rustic and more modern, but it was so tough to figure out. And same with the windows. Not the style so much, but trying to make the window styles fit nicely and match up colour-wise with the ones from Eco Living. Eco Lifestyle? Is it Eco Living or Eco Lifestyle? I cannot remember. It took me forever to figure it out, you guys. But I got there in the end. They don't match perfectly. I just kind of went with what I thought sort of looked the best, even though it didn't match perfectly. But it's fine. Making a nice little planter box here to go into the backyard I was going to have it go all the way down, and then I thought that defeated the purpose of the smaller platform, and I'm like, well, that's stupid, now you're just hiding it. So I changed it just to be a one size going around the edge, just to nicely frame that little patio area. And there's not much room for anything in the backyard here, but like I said earlier, I do move the lot to go onto the Hallow Slough, or however you say it, lot in Willow Creek, so I end up doing a nice little backyard area to go along with it. I love how the stairs look here, wrapping around the wall with the windows. It looks really nice. And this is, actually, this is one of the things I did keep in. I decided to go, initially, I thought it'd be cool to come into the kitchen area, so you walk inside, you know, you have your whole entertaining space there. Because it's an awkward space, I thought, oh, you know, maybe I can do something fun with it for the kitchen. And I tried about 10, and I've cut out quite a few of them, iterations of trying to make that kitchen work. In the end, I left it, I saved the game, I quit, and then overnight I was lying in bed trying to sleep and I couldn't, because I'm an insomniac, and I thought the kitchen needs to go downstairs. So it actually ends up moving. We popped the living room up here, and I thought the living room worked really nicely down where it was, but it also works fine up here, but the kitchen works much better downstairs. Also, I did cut out the bathroom because it's boring and there's nothing in there, so, but you'll see that in the screenshots. So you can see here me trying to figure out, I wanted these counters again because they have the modern waterfall bench tops, which is why I wanted to use them. We need more waterfall bench tops in this game and more modern counters. But it looked good, they worked well. I could not for the life of me. Okay, so what I've done here, popping these benches and sitting another one into the corner, which you can see right here, it looks fine, but it feels like a waste of space. Like there's very little kitchen bench that's usable because it's so big, and I think it just made more sense to go downstairs. Like watching this back now, I feel like maybe I could have left it, but I think it makes more sense to have the kitchen down on the bottom floor, leading out to the patio, leading out to the pool, and the fire pit, which, you know, spoiler alert, is coming later. And it just works better, I think, as far as a functioning space goes. Took me a little bit here to figure out too what kind of type of furniture I wanted to go with. I've used a real mix of furniture, some from Island Living, some from Snowy Escape, some from Base Game, some from Eco Lifestyle. Basically, I was just trying to go with a clean look. I wanted them to be clean, but also lots of textures, really textural, and contemporary and modern and fresh, if that makes sense. So I think it turned out really nicely in the end. I've used, I'm not sure which wallpaper it is. It might even just be a Base Game or a Jungle Adventure one. That's basically like a stucco, but it's got a bit of texture to it. It's more like a concrete feel, and I think it looked really nice. And I decided to go with the colour palette of greens and earthy tones inside, which I think I liked. It worked out really nicely in the end. A lot of this stuff is like placement furniture, so I've just popped it in to sort of figure out the layout and see where I want stuff to go. Changing over to a different console table too. Oh no, actually I think I keep that one. Yeah, I do. I keep that one. But the whole thing moves as well, so what do I know? Clearly nothing. I did this whole thing. I got the living room where I wanted it to be, although I didn't like that it wasn't facing the fireplace, so I do rectify that problem. Because you want to sit on the couch and watch TV and enjoy the fire, right? So I do rectify that problem when we go upstairs a little bit, but just trying to get rugs to match as well. Something that's modern and fresh, but not too busy and not too rustic. Moving on to the bedroom now, and I kept it pretty simple in here. We didn't do a whole lot. I used this this bed. It is a little bit frilly, but I liked the clean lines of the frame, so that's why we went with that. And I think those are from the bowling stuff pack, the lights that I've used. I changed the colour of them, but I went with those because they felt very mid-century and very contemporary at the same time, so standard black and white. I've put colour in this build, but I haven't gone crazy. This is actually a cupboard that was from the birthday anniversary update. I've used a few items from that. That one was designed by Peacemaker IC, and I think it's just so stunning. I was really excited to have a chance to use that in this build. And a couple of plants. as well, because you know what I'm like. I love my plants. But I didn't do too much. I didn't clutter up too much on the spaces and the tabletops and whatnot this time. Even on the floor. I cut most of this out, by the way, trying to pick what curtains I wanted. I ended up going with the ones from My First Pet stuff, just because they're very clean and simple. But then to bring in some of the warm wood elements from outside, I started off by thinking some shelving, because I wanted something on that wall, but I didn't want to do a painting because it felt like I already had one on the bed and it's a really small room, so I didn't want to overpower it. So I've decided to use some, I actually changed into a Snowy Escape one a bit later with the columns framing it, but just like a wood feature that kind of mirrors the warmth of the wood outside. And I like how that looked. It added some interest to the room without putting another painting in there. It wasn't super busy and it also complemented the exterior. So I think that turned out nicely. I think the bedroom looks nice. I mean, this whole build, there's nothing special. For me, it's more about the lines and the backyard that I really love. But the interior feels a little bit lacking to me. But I don't know. You guys will have to tell me in the comments below what you think. And if you like, or even if it's somewhere you like to live, or what your favourite style of build is. Using a little box up there of clutter items as well. Just little things that make it look lived in, but it's not super cluttered, because I feel like this is a single sim. They don't necessarily have tons of stuff they'd like to entertain. They're probably not home a lot because they probably work heaps, so they wouldn't have tons of stuff lying around. It'd be a much easier space to keep nice. And as you can see, we've moved down into the kitchen area. I've spent so many hours editing this footage and trying to make it not miss too much, but I had to cut so much out because it was just so much fiddling, and you guys see a lot of that here. But I eventually get these cabinets to be where I want. I wanted the waterfall benches because it feels really high-end and luxe to me, which is why this build was called Luxe Modern. Just flipping them around, basically. I did playtest this build too, by the way, so this kitchen is usable once I take off the pot off the stove that I put there later on in the video. Even with those cabinets being flipped around and whatnot, they can still prepare on those benches and they can still sit at them and eat too. So I did test all that and that's all good to go. But I do love how this kitchen looks. Actually, a little bit later in the video, we shift the whole kitchen island over a little bit. And I think I reduced the size of it just slightly so it fits into the space a bit more nicely. But I loved having that fireplace right behind you, so you can have that fireplace going while you're cooking and you can talking, you can to friends, you can have the doors open and, you know, be chatting with people outside while the fire pit is going, and I just think it'd be so nice to hang out there. Like, I would love to live in a space like that. I think it'd be wonderful. And then I've moved this whole living space up. I did originally try having the TV against the stairs there, but I just didn't like that you're missing out on that entire fireplace vibe, so I moved the TV into the corner and just orientated the whole living setting around that TV. But also not making it necessarily all about that. So you can go out onto that, onto the what do you call it, the entranceway and stuff like that. You can see out there and see all the decor out there as well, but the TV is also easily accessible. I had a lot of trouble trying to figure out what wall decorations I wanted here too, so I do spend a good amount of time changing all the window colours here, because this is the part where I cut out a lot of footage of me trying about a million different doors and a million different windows and a million different colour swatches to see what I like more and what looks best and what can go together. I ended up sticking with what I have, but just tweaking the colours slightly. We went with lighter woods for the windows and sliding doors, and I think we kept a darker wood for the interior doors, but it looks alright. I'm not 100% happy with it, but you know, we do what we must. We deal with it however we can. And I will say though that coming back after saving the game and quitting and walking away, like I had that stroke of thought where I'm like, oh okay, well let's move the whole kitchen downstairs and change the entire layout while I was trying to sleep, like I said. So sometimes you just need to take a step back, which I clearly did here. I'm using a mod here too. I will link all the mods that I use down below, not that there's many of them, but Better Build By Twisted Mexi. I will have that linked down below, which allows you to have an expanded catalogue. It allows you to have debug more easily to search through, and you can also just toggle it on and off in the filters as well, which is honestly a lifesaver. Here's the part where I was talking about me trying to figure out what I wanted on these walls. I didn't want a painting. None of the paintings felt right. I ended up going with these 2 wall sculptures in 2 different colours, the brown and the green. So I'm keeping tones from outside with the greens that I chose for inside, and then popping a little wall light in between them. I think it looked nice. Also, because it's a stairway, you know, you'd come up and hit your head, so you kind of have to be careful what you put there too, and sizing up a lot of the pictures I wanted, they were too big. But we pop little lights here, and I think it looks okay. I don't know if the interior is exactly how I would have liked it to be. Sometimes you just end up going with the flow and working with what you have, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's fine. I don't hate it. I just don't love it, you know? It feels like it needed something else, like it was just a bit boring to me. But it looks nice enough. I do like the shelves that I've popped in that little nook along the stair railing there, on the half wall. Pop a little bit of clutter on there, but nothing too much. I think that'd be a really nice area to have trophies and photo frames and family pictures and stuff like that displayed. And you guys know how much I love to clutter, so adding in some little books. That side table behind the couch is also another one from the birthday anniversary update. That was also Peacemaker. The swatches all match too, but a lot of those browns and rust colour tones that you guys know I love, and greens as well. So oranges and greens, in case you didn't know, are my favourite colour. So bright orange, burnt orange, coppers, rust colours, olive greens, chartreuse, lime green, pale green, mint green. Like, I just love all those colours. So it was nice getting to use those in this build that may be a bit different from the last build you guys saw me do. Popped those flowers up on top of the fireplace there. There's actually slottable spots on top of that fireplace from Snowy Escape, and things look so nice up there too. Those flowers are another birthday item update, and I think they were the Hey Harry. Yeah, they were by Hey Harry. Same with the stools that I've used in the kitchen downstairs too. And then I popped a few little paintings on top too, just to make it feel a bit more lived in, a bit warmer, a bit cozier, but again, not going too cluttered. I'm not happy with the clutter around the TV. It felt unnecessary, but I also felt like it needed something there. It was too bare, but look, I did my best, you guys. And like I said, just a little bit of clutter here along the shelves. A few magazines, because I feel like this person doesn't have time to read a lot of books, so magazines are what they do to relax. Some books, some CDs. I feel like that's probably work-related stuff. I like to come up with stories for my builds and who lives there. A few nice little statues, a few little photos, a couple of flowers, a nice bowl. Really nice clutter items that we're getting. I also used this little corner table because I wanted something in that corner, but I didn't want it to take up a whole lot of space. And it's fine. I also used this hanging plant. I used that in my last build that I uploaded too quite a few times, and I've used it a couple of times here too. Don't judge me, but listen. It's pretty and I love it. And like I said earlier, here we are moving the kitchen along, because I was looking at the aerial view and it doesn't line up with that bench along the wall. And it was just driving me insane, and I'm like, okay, well maybe if I extend it a little bit. No, I didn't like that. I ended up moving a bunch of benches so that this way, so you can see here, now this lines up, the whole kitchen lines up with that wall, with the fridge, with the cabinets against the wall, and I think it looks really good. And I do remove that pot when I play tested it, so in the uploadable version, which will be out by the time you guys see this video on the gallery, which I will also have linked down below, that will be removed because you can't cook with stuff on the stove and I'm an idiot. I also didn't go crazy with clutter here, popping in a little dishwasher because honestly, they make life so much easier, and they actually use less water than hand washing by the sink, so good for saving water that way. A few little things like trays and cups and things that I think look nice. Open shelving with the bowls, because I'm just loving having those at the moment. I was going to do upper cabinets, but this felt more contemporary to me, so I really liked being able to make use of that, which was good. A few little things like, you know, you got your sauce bottles and your open shelves, your cookie jar, your herbs and spices above where you cook, some fresh citrus fruits, because I don't know about you guys, but I like to cook with fresh citrus. And popping up those little salt and pepper shakers. We have multiple of them, but look, one could be salt and pepper, one could be herbs, you don't know. Spices, I don't know. Cookbooks. We do need more variety, because I used a lot of this stuff in my last build, but like, this is all the nice clutter we have, you know? don't end up with a lot of choice in terms of, you know, putting your clutter out there and making it different in each build. Took me a little bit to get those on there too. And then I changed the stools here that, like I said, were Hey Harry from the birthday update. And I made them like an ombre. So you got the darker green and then the lighter and then the white. I really love how that looked. I think I'm going to play around with doing that again in some later builds. And then more things on top of here because I can't help but clutter. I feel like you guys are judging me, but listen, I am who I am. That flower pot that I put on top of there from, I think it's from, is that from Eco Lifestyle? I think it is. Or Get Famous, I can't remember. Anyway, it's one of my favourites, I use it a lot. Took me a little bit to decide what I wanted in that little corner. I think I ended up putting a mirror down there, or have I done that already? Just adding some seating to the, here we go, to the front patio. Front patio entranceway, I'm not sure what you'd call it. A few plants, a little bit of seating, a little bit of lighting. Nothing crazy. I haven't gone nuts here, you guys. I've just gone with some stuff that made it feel lived in, but also not over the top. Yeah, so I've already got the mirror there, and then just a couple of little pots and some flowers, just to add a bit of visual interest so that the whole thing isn't just a bland white wall with wood floors, you know? Like I said, I'm keeping it reasonably simple. It's probably not simple for a lot of people will probably just leave that. Just leave it, Tash. Just leave it. But I didn't. And just a little office nook. Not a very nice area to work in. It would have been nice if I could have fit in a proper little office space, but it just didn't end up working out. I could have made the build slightly bigger, but I really wanted to do something a bit smaller for this build. But I feel like this is the sort of thing that, like, where you have a small home, but you're paying for quality of materials and quality of build, and not necessarily the amount of space you're getting. And adding some interest to the outside. That moves though, so I won't bother talking about that just yet. We have a little grill outside. It'd be nice to have some fancier grills that aren't like full kitchen setups, because I couldn't really fit a full kitchen setup out here. I don't know. I think it looks alright though. This whole thing changes. It took me, honestly, I reckon at least an hour to figure out what I wanted to do with this. I had to... we're in Willow Creek now, by the way, in case you guys didn't notice, we've made that switch. I had to edit all that out because of the amount of time I took trying to decide on things, which is why this video was so long. But at least it's only one, right? I hated everything I did on the patio. The chairs, nothing fit, nothing worked. I really wanted to keep the wood coming out from the interior, but then add in the tiles that were used upstairs and that will be used in further in the landscaping. So I wasn't going to compromise on that, but that did make it harder to make stuff fit. But I ended up deleting all that and putting a table with an umbrella and some chairs around it, and I think that looked a lot nicer in the end. It fit the space a bit more too. Felt a bit more usable. And I suppose if you want to recline and lounge, you've got your pool seats and you've got a little fire pit down there, so this is just for sort of eating. And I figured if we had a table outside and it's a warm climate, you know, that's fine. Here I've used a platform to sink, and I've lowered it rather than making it higher to create like a hole in the ground essentially. And what I create here is a little fire pit. So it's going to have a pergola on top and a nice edge all around it, which I've used platforms for, same as around the pool. And a lot of the visuals of that change, but it took me a little while to figure out how exactly I wanted it to look. I knew I wanted something fun for the backyard, something more in the entertaining style, just moving it so that it lined up with the with the patio area nicely. Same with fences, all of it. I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted it to look. I was putting them up on top of these platforms here, but then the fence was sitting slightly higher on top than it was in the other spaces, and I hated how that looked, but then nothing was looking right. I couldn't enclose the whole thing because of where the lot boundary was, but the fire pit needed to be that big, and it was a whole thing. So I went through a bunch of different types of fences and a bunch of different placements. I ended up not fully enclosing the yard, similar to what I did in the last build you guys saw, and it's something I do a lot. I create fake gateways by just leaving a hole in the fence, and then I decided to put up the pergola roof here using the small fences that I used in the previous video, and on top of the patio area, the entryway, and then having all of the columns and stuff there, and then just using the fence to sort of come part of the way, and then this pergola acts as a barrier as well, I guess. I don't know. I think it looks nice. I don't know how practical it would be, or if you'd be cool with just having your backyard open. I know I wouldn't be. I'd much prefer it being closed, especially in a more suburban area, but you know, I had to do what I had to do, and I was either compromise the space, compromise the idea, or compromise the fence, and I chose the fence. Using trim just to make it all look a little bit nicer. I also get rid of this terrain paint that we have here. I wanted the landscaping to be structured but not super manicured, and I think I achieved that. I end up going with the same tiles that we have on the patio, as you can see here, and I changed that around a little bit. It doesn't stay this way, but I think it looked really nice in the end. It added some structure to the space but didn't make it feel too perfect with the way that I landscaped. It looks good, and I used some wood planking around the pool and around the patio area just to make it, and in a darker tone, to bring in from the house but also tie in with the flooring of the interior and that little bit that's on the deck. I like how it looks, and then just doing this neat little trick you can do. If you press, I think it's a Control or Alt 4, and it'll make a triangle rather than a full square for your tiles. And you can use that to create corners so that it looks like the wood is wrapping around neatly rather than all going just in one direction. And I think that's a really nice little detail to use with wraparound porches or barriers or borders, the way I've used it there. I also didn't know how I wanted this to look. I end up using the same sort of thing but a different hedge, that because you can see they sit so far above the ground, but this one here sort of pushes into the platform a little bit so it looks nice and full. So I thought that looked really nice, and then using some rocks and some plants just to create small garden beds and sort of add a barrier to sort of where we're at. It makes it feel more like, how do I explain it? Makes it feel like it's finished without having to literally wrap a fence or a border or a garden bed or whatever around everywhere. I kept the fencing along that path to make it feel more structured, but I used the terrain paint so that it felt a little bit more natural, so the whole thing wasn't totally manicured. It just adds to that whole feeling, I think. Nice little bin outside. And trying to choose trees was really hard. I'm still not 100% happy with the trees that I chose. It was really hard to find stuff that worked nicely though. I went with these fruit kind of, they look like lime or a lemon tree from the Island Pack. Why can't I have no brain. It's fine. Again, using rocks. You can't bring your fences right to the edge of the lot because why would you be able to do that? That obviously makes sense. So I use rocks to make it look like it has purpose rather than it's just fence not going to the footpath, which is infuriating. And I change out the stairs to use another platform as a step, and then bring down the tiles into that. I really love how the fire pit looks. I'm really happy with it. With the landscaping, I decided I wanted it to feel full and lush and manicured, but not perfect. But I also didn't want to go with a ton of colour. Contrary to other builds that I've done, especially with a more rustic build, I didn't want to make it feel really overgrown and cluttered and like an explosion of colour. I wanted to keep the palette simple in terms of just different types of greens and different types of textures, just with a few little pops of colour here and there. That I'm happy with. I think that worked out nicely. Also using these ground covers around the base of trees just to make everything feel a bit more filled in so it's not quite so barren. Hanging some lights just by using the 9 key and raising them up into the fencing at the top there, and I do the same with a hanging plant later too. You sort of raise them up to go into the wood, but so they're not poking out, and it makes it look like they're attached rather than what happens if you just place them there, which is they're floating. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed there, but in the pool I used the same siding as the house and the same flooring as the patio. So I tied all that in rather than using proper pool tiles and stuff like that. I thought it looked nice. I like how it looks, especially in modern builds, to use the same materials as the house. Makes it feel expensive to me. And those are from Eco Lifestyle, those wooden decor that are added to the side of the house. You could get other ones from City Living and stuff too, which I used to use a lot, but it adds some interest because the back is kind of just like a flat box. And some climbing plants just to make it feel more like it's more like an eco-green modern vibe rather than super clean and lots of concrete and stuff like that. I'm really happy with the exterior of this house for the most part. The interior, not so much, but the exterior I love. I think it turned out beautifully. I'm super happy with it. You can see here, there we go, I raise it up, you can see it poke through, and then I just bring it down a little bit, and then it looks like it's just sitting there, like it's a part of it. Putting a drain there because it's a sunken area, so rain needs to go somewhere. And I decided to just use a little console table with a little bit of clutter, some plants, and a few drink containers and things like that. Just things that you might find useful to pop food on, or snacks, or whatever, or music if you're sitting out there by the fire. And it feels a little bit more, a little bit less modern with all of that stuff there, but I like how it looks. I think it's a nice addition. I do delete those wall lights. I'm dying to use them somewhere. I think, are they from university? They're circular wall lights. They're really pretty. I felt like they ultimately weren't right. Oh, with that, I popped the ground cover just over the fence a little bit, so it looks like it's just spilling out and overgrowing a little bit, just to make it feel like it's not 100% manicured. So it's neat and tidy, and it's planned out and all of that, but it's not 100% perfect. I really love how that looked. I think it was a nice touch. Moving over to getting rid of those and just placing some lights on the fence, adding a few bushes and stuff, some rocks, just like I said before, to make an edge feel finished but not feel unresolved, if that makes sense. I don't know. There's a few things you can see moving around too, like those planter boxes I have sitting right there. I wanted to use them, I just couldn't find a place. I also wanted to put the pool lounges on an angle to make it look quote unquote interesting, but it just looked stupid, so I ended up just putting them like a normal person would. And using more of those to cover the roofing over the entryway, same way as I have over the pergola. I like how they look. They bring a bit of lushness and a bit of green vibe, but without being too overpowering. They turned out well, and just a little bit of decor on here too. Again, I didn't go crazy with clutter, I didn't overwork it, at least I hope not. Just a few little items to make it feel like someone lives there, and to make it look like a beautiful, well decorated space. Popping a little, what are they? I can't remember the name of the things. They were patched into the base game update though. But a nice little music box, you know, because I'm old, and just so it would be a nice space to sit out there. And then I used these from Eco Lifestyle too, just to cover the windows, and I sized them down so they fit the windows perfectly. Worked out really well, and I think they look nice and add a bit of interest and shape to the back of the house. Because like I said before, it's just kind of like a flat box, oh my god. A flat box unlike the front. Please do make sure that you like this video, you subscribe, comment down below too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd like to know what you think of my builds, and also what you enjoy. What's your aesthetic? What would you like? And maybe some build requests. So hit me up in the comments. We are just about at the screenshots now. I just want to thank you guys once again for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you back for the next one, and stay awesome.
you.